Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the Blackout Tea channel. I wanted to come and discuss with you guys this issue surrounding Miss Pieper Lewis. She is a teenager, was a teenager she still is, out of Iowa. And it appears that they still have some fucked up laws over there, okay? This young girl ran away at the age of 15 and encountered a molester. I'm going to say that because I believe that he actually groomed her into this situation, making her think as if he was going to help her or try to get her some type of assistance, but he really in fact wanted to use her for his own sexual advantage. So let me go ahead and read this for you guys. So Des Moines 6 trafficking victim Pieper Lewis was sentenced to probation instead of prison September 13th, 2022. So this was just a couple of days ago, actually, for killing a man she said repeatedly raped her. Lewis, now 17, pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and willful injury after killing Zachary Brooks, a 37-year-old father of three, who she said sexually assaulted her multiple times in the weeks leading up to his killing. She had faced up to 20 years in prison, guys, okay? Lewis, then 15, stabbed Brooks to death using a knife she found on a bedside table in Brooks' apartment after another alleged assault in the early hours of June 2020. After running away from what Lewis said was an abusive relationship with her mother in early 2020, Lewis lived for a short time with a 8-year-old, a small-time musician she called her boyfriend, who says forced her to have sex with older men for money. Prosecutors never disputed claims that Lewis was sexually assaulted or trafficked. The register is not naming that man because he has not been charged with a crime. But Polk County Attorney John Scarcone confirmed the day after Lewis' sentencing that the case is still in the investigative stage and that any possible charges remain well within the statute of limitations. So check this out, guys. Statute of limitations on human trafficking allegations. Under Iowa law, a person is guilty of human trafficking if they engage in human trafficking by threatening to cause harm to another person, benefit financially, or receive anything of value from knowing participation in human trafficking. Lewis said in her plea agreement that the 28-year-old man put a knife to her neck when she told him on May 31st of 2020 that she wanted to go to Brooks' home. Lewis also said the man created a dating profile for her and forced her to have sex with older men for money. Human trafficking in Iowa is a felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison in most cases. If the victim is under 18, it is a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison. A 2021 law removed the statute of limitations for sex trafficking claims committed against minors, including human trafficking crimes. However, the law took effect on May 12th of 2021, about 13 months after the musician allegedly began trafficking Lewis in April of 2020. Under the old version of Iowa law, a human trafficking claim had to be prosecuted within 10 years of a victim's 18th birthday. Lewis turns 18 on September 28th of 2022. So she is about to actually turn 18, guys. A pre-sentence investigation report recommended that Lewis go to prison, according to her legal team. Matthew Shelley, one of her attorneys, argued for a deferred judgment, which would allow her record to be expunged if she successfully completes her probation. Prosecutors were expected to also recommend prison time because they argued during the 2-day sentencing hearing that Lewis was at times uncooperative and broke rules during more than 2 years of juvenile detention. Assistant Polk County Attorney Megan Guns ultimately recommended 5 years probation for Lewis, which is what Polk County Judge David M. Porter ordered. Lewis also served 1,200 hours of community service, which will cover more than $4,000 in fines. In addition, she must stay at the Fresh Start Women's Center, a residential facility, while she is on probation, will be subject to GPS tracking, and must provide, guys, $150,000 in compensation for the death of Brooks' estate. If Lewis violates her probation, she could be sentenced to 20 years in prison. Well, Miss Lewis, this was the second chance you asked for. You don't get a third. Do you understand? Proctor asked. The Iowa legislature in 1997 enacted a law relating to restitution for death of victims, which required people convicted of felony charges where people die to pay $150,000. The law reads, in all criminal cases in which the offender is convicted of a felony in which the act or acts committed by the offender cause the death of another person, in addition to the amount determined to be payable in order to a victim for pecuniary damages, the court shall also order the victim to pay at least $150,000 in restitution to the victim's estate if the victim died. Porter, the judge, based his decision on 2017 Iowa Supreme Court case that found a 15-year-old who pleaded guilty to second-degree murder had to pay the $150,000 required by Iowa law, and that the law does not allow a district court judge to waive this form of restitution, and it is not unconstitutional when applied to juvenile homicide offenders. The court is cognizant that you and your supporters will be frustrated with the imposition of the $150,000 in restitution to Mr. Brooks' estate, Porter said to Lewis during sentencing. The court is presented with no other option other than which is dictated by the law of this state. Brooks had 3 children with 2 women, but it was immediately clear who would receive the restitution. Lewis attorney Shelley said after Tuesday's ruling that they may appeal the restitution ruling to be argued to Porter that Brooks was more than 51% responsible for his own death, and therefore Lewis should not have to pay his estate anything. And that's what I'm saying, y'all, okay? Maddie Tate Smith, who was a spokesperson for the Iowa Coalition Against Sexual Assault in 2021 and last year, that similar victim restitution statutes are pretty common in other states, and that this debt effectively makes people convicted of homicides second-class citizens. For people in poverty or documented humanities of trauma, which Pieper would definitely fall into, this kind of debt tends to follow them the rest of their lives and can have a really negative effect, Tate Smith said in 2021. It's good intent, I think, but a lot of times it can force people with very little means to commit more acts of crime just to survive. Lewis will remain, this is her picture, guys, as a matter of fact, okay? This is her now. Lewis will remain at the Polk County Juvenile Detention Center until a bed is available at the Fresh Start Women's Center in Des Moines. Opened in 1993, the 48-bed facility houses female offenders who must pay rent, get employment, and participate in treatment programming on topics like job seeking, stress management, financial education, nutrition, parenting, and trauma. The mission of the Fresh Start Women's Program is to provide a safe and holistic approach to supervision that seeks to educate, support, and advocate for all women to transform their lives, according to its website. The program emphasizes gender respectivity and a trauma-informed approach to case management. Porter said testimony from Dr. Robert Kisner, a neurologist, and Lewis therapist Megan Huxley influenced his decision to send Lewis to center instead of prison. Until you reach the age of 25, your life will be highly structured, Porter said, practically for the next 3 years. Lewis dreams of being an artist, going to college, and having a business named Pi. First Start can provide her with a proper support management, according to Magnelia Reese, another of her attorneys. The world has been hard to Pieper, Reese said. Instead of being hard, she made the conscious choice to be soft and to make her story make a difference in her life and the lives of others. Instead of turning silent and being hateful, she turned it around. Lewis, who earned her GED while being held in juvenile detention, acknowledged in a statement prior to her sentencing that she struggled with the structure of her detention, including why I was treated like fragile glass or wasn't allowed to communicate with her friends or family. My spirit has been burned but still glows through the flames, she read from a statement she had prepared. Hear me roar, hear me glow, and watch me grow. I am a survivor, she added. Asked by the judge if she had made mistakes, Lewis responded, I took a person's life. My intentions that day were not to just go out and take somebody's life. In my mind, I felt that I wasn't safe, and I felt that I was in danger, which resulted in the acts. But it doesn't take away from the fact that the crime was committed. Brooks grew up in Des Moines and attended Des Moines public schools before getting his GED. A father of 3 children, he worked as a bus driver in Acne, then at a transport company in Fort Dodge. According to his obituary, 6 weeks before his death, he moved back to Des Moines. Brooks' brother, DeAndre Calloway, described Brooks as a loving father and proud dog owner. Calloway told the Register he said Lewis at Brooks' apartment once. Brooks told him she was over 18, he said. See how he lied to his own brother? Lewis intentionally met Brooks at a party at a house near Weeks Middle School. She told Des Moines police detectives the musician with whom Lewis was living first sent Lewis to stay with Brooks sometime in May 2020. According to her plea agreement, Brooks gave her alcohol and marijuana. She became intoxicated and he had sex with her 5 times while she was unconscious over the weekend, she said in her plea. Iowa's age for sexual consent is 16, though teens ages 14 and 15 can consent with people who are no more than 48 months older than them, according to Iowa law. I did not want to have sex with Mr. Brooks, Lewis said in her plea. I did not want to go to Mr. Brooks' apartment, but I had no other place to go. The day before the killing on May 31st, 2020, the musician threatened her at knife point to force her to go to Brooks' apartment again. According to the agreement, it said Brooks picked Lewis up at the musician's apartment at 10 p.m. and planned to give him $50 worth of marijuana in exchange for her performing sex acts, her attorneys wrote. Once Lewis got to Brooks' apartment, he ordered her to take her clothes off, according to her plea. Brooks and 2 other people pressured her into drinking vodka and smoking marijuana while they watched a movie, according to a search warrant. My initial thought was that Mr. Brooks was drunk and would likely fall asleep while watching the movie. Lewis wrote in her plea, I thought that this was the only way to stop him from having sex with me. But Lewis fell asleep first. When she woke up, Brooks was raping her, she said in court documents. She screamed for him to get off her, but couldn't stop him, she said. After she gathered her clothes while Brooks slept, she said in her plea, she said that's when she saw the knife on the nearby nightstand and snapped. I suddenly realized that Mr. Brooks had raped me yet again, and I was overcome with rage, Lewis wrote in her plea. After the killing, Lewis said, she fled from Brooks' apartment in his Dodge Charger and ended up back at the musician's apartment. A maintenance man found Brooks' body that evening. Police arrested Lewis at the musician's apartment the next day. Patrick Weimer, Iowa Department of Public Safety Intelligence Director, told the Register last year the relationship Lewis described with the musician is a perfect example of human trafficking. It's a perfect example of control, said Weimer, who was not involved in the investigation of the killing. That's a way people control somebody else. Lewis said in her plea that she considered the musician her boyfriend. Traffickers make victims feel like they're a part of their family, so they will never leave, Weimer said. Victims often do not realize they are victims, says Gretchen Brown-Weech, Victim Rights and Human Trafficking Coordinator in Iowa Attorney's General Office. Force is what people think of. That's not very common, Brown-Weech said. Fraud is slightly more common and easier to prove. Coercion is the one that's most common, least understood, and least proven. Under federal and state law, anyone under age 18 who commits a commercial sex act is a trafficking victim, Brown-Weech said. It does not require proof of force, fraud, or coercion, she said. Guys, this story is unbelievable, okay? First of all, this family should not be getting anything from this girl, okay? She should not have to pay them a damn dime, okay? You had a grown-ass man taking advantage of a child. And when she saw that she had the opportunity to get rid of somebody that she considered to be dangerous to her because he continued to rape her over and over again, she did the only thing that she could do, which was kill him. Now, Iowa need to do fucking better, okay? If y'all around there paying victims that died, I understand. But there has to be a line drawn in the sand somewhere, okay? In situations of such, this young lady should not be subject to have to pay anybody a dime. Much more, she shouldn't even be in prison or have to go to any facility for any amount of time. At this point, she is the victim, okay? The person that is deceased is not the victim. He did cause his own demise. I'm hoping that this is overturned at some point now that some form or fit that they're trying to say the rules have changed, sorta not. But at the same time, I'm hoping that the money that was raised, I think they've already raised like $250,000 on her GoFund. Her actual teacher, a teacher that she had, was the one that set it up, and that's how much money it has already created. So she can well pay their ass off now and get on. But at the same point, I'm saying don't pay them a dime, okay? Don't pay none of them baby mamas a dime. If anything, they should have been concerned about their little ones. Because my thing is, has he touched his own children at this point, okay? If he's doing it to another child, trust and believe he's done it before. Okay, so at the end of the day, nobody should be arguing about whether or not they come up with monies that they know rightfully they shouldn't even get. Okay, so at the end of the day, this right here is a situation at hand that definitely needs to be dealt with. I'm glad that she has attorneys, she has individuals out here trying to back her. But I think that we need to share this story, guys. We need to get this story out as much as we can so that this story continues to go up, and up, okay? If it needs to go to a different court, a higher court, because Judge Porter wasn't able, good morning, Ty, because Judge Porter wasn't able or isn't able to make any additional changes to what he's already put in place, something needs to come about it. So I feel this is a story that we need to talk about. This is a story that we need to share. This is maybe a story that we need to start making calls to Iowa on, okay? At this point, nobody gives a shit about the person that's dead because he was raping her, okay? He is not the victim. She is the victim. And at this time, Pieper Lewis needs to be given the chance that she wasn't given before. All right, guys, I just wanted to bring this story to you guys because literally this morning I was laying in my bed and a tear dropped on my eye because I feel like this girl is being railroaded. Okay, railroaded in so many ways. This young child seems like she's had a hard time when it comes down to life, and this is not the way to leave her hanging. So I am hopeful that some of these entertainers and some of these people that know people in high places will assist in trying to get this young lady off of this, first of all, this crime. But not only that, fuck that family getting $150,000. It's not due. It's not due. It's not due. And what y'all need to do as baby mamas, y'all, I hope y'all have had chats with y'all children if they old enough to tell y'all things that been going on, because I don't think that anybody could have trusted this person. I believe that he has been a predator. He tried to groom this young lady, and when this young lady noticed what he was doing, it got overwhelming for her because she knew it wasn't right. All right, guys, remember, share the video. If you are not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and subscribe. Thumbs up the video before you leave the room. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by, and I will definitely see you guys soon. Mwah. Thanks for watching.